It's Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here. And good evening. I'm Socrates Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African American owned broadcasting studio. We believe digital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. When We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again. Good evening, and welcome to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, in the heart of the deep, deep South. Mississippi, a state with some weird history. We have done some marvelously wonderful things, and we've had some atrocious things to occur in the history of this state. A state where African American population is excess of 40%. At one time in Mississippi, according to my co-host, Dr. Henderson, there were more African Americans slaves in Mississippi than there were white folk. He said that the slavery could have ended in 60 days had folk had the willpower to be able to break loose from the chains of slavery and under the rooftops of their masters. But here in Mississippi, we're still struggling. We're trying to make a difference. We're trying to find our way to a good quality of life. We're trying to move off the very bottom to somewhere in the middle. We're trying to do that as a state. The state is last, and then if you happen to be black in a state that's last, you got some idea where you are. You got some idea exactly what your quality of life is and what your conditions are. You're relegated to a position of unimportance, totally irrelevant. And that's where we find ourselves in Mississippi. And when you have that kind of chaos, then you have all of the kinds of infighting, and you have high crime and corruption. Because where there is poverty, there is corruption. There is going to be murders. There's going to be high crime. And those individuals that remember the days in Mississippi when we did not have to lock the doors on our house, when we knew that we could just leave home and leave the door open and nobody was going to break in and take anything, or nobody was going to shoot or kill anybody, those days are gone. You can wish for them, but they are gone, and they are never coming back again. You see, the nature of the human has changed. It's changed in Mississippi. The years of suffering and neglect have finally caught up with us, and now our actions are coming home to roost. And that's why we have all these negative things. We're number one in obesity. We're in the poorest state in the nation. We have the highest criminal incarceration rate of any third world country. Education, we're on the bottom. From an economic standpoint, we're the poorest state in the nation, and 42% of Mississippi's African American population lives below the poverty line. So we got some work to do down south. But that's why we're here. When there's work to do, it's time for all good men to rise to the occasion. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their fellow man. Now, I remember taking classes at Alcorn State University, and I was taking a typing class, and the first sentence that we took was that now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. Well, I'm just changing the last word. come to the aid of their fellow man who was hurting and screaming out loud and acting out. And that's why we see the conditions that we're in. Now, this is We Believe Digital. We're a unique broadcasting station, different from any other that you might find. And we're different in that what we focus on and how we bring the message to you. That's what makes us different. We're not headline people as much as we are getting on the inside of what's really driving crime, what's really driving poverty, and why these things continue to exist. It's got to be a reason for it. It wasn't relegated by God that Mississippi should be last. He gave Mississippi some of the most fertile soil in the world. We got the Mississippi Delta, which you can grow anything in the Mississippi Delta. We are ideally located where the Interstate 55 and Interstate 20 intersect right here in Jackson, Mississippi. We have the Mighty Pearl River that runs through the city of Jackson. We should have a river walk. We should have high-rise hotels. We should have all of the events that they have in Atlantic City, right here in Jackson, Mississippi. I mean, God gave us everything that we need to do that, fertile soil and good, clean air. What more do you need? All you need then is some willing workers and desire and some intellect, and those that really, truly want to move forward, and those who are not of the opinion that the only way for me to move forward is to stand on you. To the extent that I keep you down is to the extent that I rise. You know, that's a philosophy that's been held too often in the South. And we got to change that. And why do I say the South? Because 80% of all African Americans in this country reside in the South. That's right. So what happens in Mississippi happens in Alabama, Louisiana, and Georgia. I could go on with Tennessee and a few other, Virginia and a few other states in the South. So you see, we're all dealing with the same issues. And we got to change that. We've not gotten over slavery. We have not gotten over the Civil War. We have just not done it. We have not made any progress since those days. We're still fighting those wars. Make no mistake about it. The Civil War was fought based upon the fact that we need to keep our slaves working and we need free labor so that we could have a grand old style of life and a good economy, so that we could party at the King Edward Hotel in Jackson, Mississippi, and where we could party at the Peabody Hotel up in Memphis, Tennessee, and we could watch the ducks walk down in a row and get in the water every day at 3 o'clock in the evening to entertain our white masters. Yes, we got to change some things. Now we're going to put it all on the line. We're going to call it like it is, and then we're going to talk about how we can change that. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, we want you to go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. We want to build our subscribers up as high, as fast as we possibly can. You know, I took a look at my brother Roland Martin, and I am an admirer of him and what he's done with his show. I love that. He's a role model. He says that it can be done. That's all I needed to know, that it could be done. And my friend Isaac Lindsay up in Lexington, Mississippi, I want to send a shout out to you, good brother. You're doing a marvelous job out there with the Isaac Lindsay Network, where your subscribers are continuing to grow on YouTube. We see you. We admire you for what you're doing. And we here at We Believe Digital are on our way. So when we pull up behind you real close to you, don't be afraid. Just say there's more room on the bus for as many of us who desire to get on it. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, we want you to send us stars and share this program with your friends and family. It's important that you do that. If you're watching us on our very own platform, WeBelieveDigital.com, you'll see that platform looks different than any other platforms you've seen. You'll see that we have categories of interest there, some 8 to 10 categories. Under inspiration, you will find all of our religious programs. Under hot topics, you will find shows like this. Under sports, you will find sports shows, and so on and so on. Also, down on that website, if you choose to listen to the internet radio, We Believe Radio, some of the best music that you've ever heard, that's streaming year-round, all day long, 24/7, 365. We're going to be launching a very special gospel section on the internet radio. Our community has a need for that. There's a void there, and we intend to fill it. So, as always, I want to welcome our guest, my co-host, Dr. Eldridge Henderson, to the studio. Doc, how have you been?
I've been doing fine, sir. Appreciate this opportunity again, and I see you are very concerned about Mississippi.
I am.
But it appears to me, sir, that you are not saying that Mississippi is the greatest landmass in the world. It
No.
appears, sir, that you don't see the potential that's right now relevant for all citizens that want to take on responsibility. This is a great state, sir. And let me tell you before we get into the meat of this program, where in the world can you find as much land for sale that's of high quality than in the state of Mississippi?
Mm.
You must look at the fact that we have some of the greatest educational institutions in the country, and anyone with the age of 16 to 35 can attend school free and get paid on top of that, even if you don't have a high school diploma. We have 15 community colleges. We have about 17 private community colleges. We call them private institutions. Have 15 or 18 major universities and other side institutions where you can get credentials to do almost anything you want, and you don't need anything but age, 16 older. The other good part about it, once you get yourself in a position where you can get certified and get certain credentials, Mr. Socrates, in Mississippi, it's almost unlimited what anyone can do, black, white, Indian, Hispanic, because you can have the skills to make $15 to $75 an hour. You can start your own business in 3 to 5 years. Get your businesses connected with the state of Mississippi, Small Business Administration, with the federal government, and one before they are 30 years of age can start receiving local, state, and federal contracts if they learn the intricate system of how to get local, state, and federal contracts. On and on. All this can before you're 30. And then with this important information that I'm just sharing with you, before you're 30 years of age, then you're in a position where you would have that economic independence to get involved in what I call public service, where you can be a politician. But you want to start first as a volunteer, working with the politicians, being on advisory boards, and then getting specific responsibility as a leader, as an advisor, and then one can look at the various ability levels that they have and run for specific public office and make some changes, and then in the long run, you can see how Mississippi then could be number one at the top versus number one at the bottom. And all this can be done in about 7 years. I don't want to tell all the good news about the potential here in Mississippi, but this is the place to be, and that's why I moved back to Mississippi, and I couldn't leave if I was forced to leave, even if someone offered me $100 million.
Look out, Doc.
I wouldn't do it. I would turn it down after I think about it for a while.
I would grab you and rush you over to the psychiatrist.
Oh, you really?
If you turned it down, the $100 million. Because, I would be very disappointed in you. I think that I would be leaving with you if someone said there's $100 million opportunity out here that's available for African Americans. I'll be the first
But see,
to
that
apply.
would be a setup for me to be a failure, sir.
Why is that?
That's what the human enemies of mankind would expect me to do, take the money and leave. Because if I take the money and leave, they know that I'm a weakling. They know that I'd have potential to be an Akatam. They know that they would have people already set to figure out how to take that $100 million. And then when I get ready to come back, they would tell me, you're not a citizen anymore in Mississippi.
You be the prodigal son.
That's exactly
You
right.
will be welcomed back. We'd kill
I
the
doubt it.
fattest calf.
I doubt it.
Open the best bottle of wine and welcome you back.
I doubt it because you just told me you would leave with me. So naturally, you will be gone, and I would have a chance
Doc,
for survival.
I don't see the same Mississippi that you articulate. Now, I don't get it. We're last in everything, and yet you say this is the land of opportunity.
It is.
You saying that this, the only way I can see that is if you're saying that we can't go down any further, that we're on the bottom now, so there's not but one way up. I mean, and we got to move upward because we can't fall further. I mean, when you last, you last.
That's correct. But we're not on our face, sir. We're not on our face looking down. When you're at the bottom of the barrel or the bottom anywhere, in any area of activity, if you're looking down, you can't get up because you don't have enough strength to push yourself up. But if you're at the bottom and you're looking up, you can see the stars, you can see the moon, and you can say, I got to get out of here. There are some things I can see in my inner consciousness, in my mind, that I got to get out and explore. And that's when you jump up from your back, not push up, jump up, stand up, and say, I'm going to attack things in a prioritized manner. I'm going to set some goals, some timelines, some guidelines. And I'm going to say in 30, 60, 90 days, I'm going to accomplish such and such in education and training. On and on and on. And when you know anything, in 7 years, you will be a new man, you will have a new state, and you will have more respect than you would have if you prayed 30, 60, or 90 days.
Now, this is Dr. Eldridge Henderson. He's probably one of the most renowned speakers in Mississippi. And Doc, tell our viewers a little bit about how they can schedule you for their programs and their events.
Well, sir, if they are bold, we're very easy to contact and use. All they have to do is call us at 601-201-1957. Or, ladies and gentlemen, you can contact us at clu369@gmail.com and say, we have a speech at our school. We need a speaker at our church, at our community organization, and this is the topic, and these are the people that's possibly going to be there, from 50 to 1,000, and I want you to talk about specific ideas, a topic, name them, and once they do that, Mr. Socrates, we will get ready and give them some of the best information with solutions than they can find anywhere other than in the Bible.
Well,
and we can tell them they can do it in 30, 60, or 90 days.
So I say to you out there that if you are interested in having real conversations and a real dialogue about the state of Mississippi or the state of African Americans in Mississippi, then you contact Dr. Henderson and let's get him scheduled. I'll be happy to come along with him. And this is specifically into our white churches and into our white fellowships, into the Rotary clubs, into the Chamber of Commerce. We need to have some real dialogue here, and we need to talk to some people who are not afraid to put it on the table. Let's call it like it is. But until we put the problem on the table, we can't solve the problem. Dr. Henderson has got some great ideas. But if you're not listening, if you're not hearing those ideas, then you're never going to be able to take advantage of it. Now, Mississippi is a wonderful state in terms of what God has prepared, but what man has done with it leaves a lot to be desired. So in many ways, I agree with what some of the things he said, but I am not as optimistic about where we're headed as a state and as a race as he articulates. And I will remind him that in the city of Jackson, 8 years ago, had 200,000 citizens that resided in the city of Jackson. Today, we got less than 125,000 citizens in our city. Well, what happened to the other 75,000, Doc, if Mississippi was so good? Where did they go? What happened to them? And then I want you to ponder this for a minute. We're going to go to a commercial break and come back, and I want you to answer these questions. You know, what happened to that 75,000 people that we lost? Our school system had 32,000 students. Now it's got 23,000 students. I mean, where did those 9,000 students go if Mississippi is doing so well? Now, I know you got answers and you got solutions on how to turn this around. But I want you to stay with us, and we're going to take a commercial break, pay some bills, and then we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee. To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Welcome back to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Now, if you were with us in our first segment, then you understand that we're dealing with some very difficult issues. Then I'm putting Dr. Henderson on the spot to try to gain some understanding. And this understanding I want to share with our white brethren and our black leaders. I want to have this dialogue and conversation that Dr. Henderson and I are having this evening in a more public forum, and we're going to get to that. But if you're watching us on Facebook, go ahead on and share this program with your friends and family. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. We need your support. If you're watching us on WeBelieveDigital.com, hit that donate button and share this program with friends and family. Now, Dr. Henderson, let's get right back into it.
Let's do it.
You proclaim that Mississippi is a garden spot and that this is a land of opportunity and all of those kinds of things, and yet people are fleeing. The state is losing population. I don't know exactly what the number is. Somebody say 2% of decline in population, which is significant. Our city has lost population from 200,000 down to 125. Our school system has lost population from 32 to down around 23. Why are people leaving this land of opportunity?
Well, it's very simple. People always leave because they see something better elsewhere. Now, the reason why we have this problem, and I'm going to concentrate in Jackson and Hinds County, is because the last 30 years you have found that the leading actors and the people that had the responsibility of managing the economics, politics, and education in this area, especially Hinds County, had a change in the power structure. and I'm talking about the Caucasian, lost the ability to control everything through an appointed and elected process. Since they have never in the history of Mississippi and the nation wanted a black man to be in control of money, budgets, personnel, they say we must get out of this area and figure out a way to return. And see, that's the good part. There's going to be a return. White folks left by the thousands. They left Hinds County. They left Jackson. Black folks that were suffering economically, socially, didn't have the education opportunities they needed, they did the same thing. They followed the white folks to the suburbs, to other cities, other counties. And white folks say, now here we are, we have the same problems. We have the black folks trying to get in our suburbs. Some of them want to get in our gated communities. They're in our schools again. Everywhere we go, black folks are following us. And they have a chance to be the leaders in Jackson, Mississippi and Hinds County. We gave them that opportunity. And we did it on purpose. Since we were outnumbered, voting-wise, we decided to give it to them, and we're going to guarantee that we will take this area back within 7 years. And so we're just going to leave for a while and put our strategies to work. We're going to appoint and select individuals that have the ability to be leaders, but we're going to control them economically and socially and have them divided so they can look out for our interests, give us the big contracts, allow us to pass laws that they don't protest, and we'll be able to gradually take over the politics, economic development, and we won't even have to vote for it on the local level. Our friends that used to live in Jackson, that used to live in Hinds County, are now in the corporate offices in other counties. They're in the legislature. They are the senators. They are in the House of Representatives. They are the judges. All of these folks, many of them and their ancestors, lived in Hinds County and in Jackson, had major homes in the rural area, big mansions in the city, but they are gone. But the good news is, in 7 years, we're going to be back. You heard of the news that they're getting ready to do some major development down on Ferry Street. They turned that over to the black folks, gave them contracts, and the white folks and black folks got together, took all that money for Ferry Street for the last 30 years. You didn't see nothing happen but big contracts. Blacks were involved. They messed all of that up. Anybody go to prison? Of course not. And white folks said, let's give them another opportunity. We're going to give them a chance to destroy education. We're going to give them a chance to have some of the worst leaders in the world. We're going to have those leaders so messed up and confused, so greedy and self-conscious until they're going to fight each other in public. And we're going to laugh at them. And while they're fighting, we're going to put legislation together and come back and take over without a vote.
So you are articulating a plan. It sounds like a strategic plan
Of
that
course.
white folks had that they're working to perfection.
They are working to perfection. It's working so well, if one or two of them are listening right now, and we know we are, they'll say, I hate to say it, but publicly, that man is right. I don't know where he got this information from. Did he hear it from the maid? Did he hear it from the chauffeur? Did he hear it from the man that's cutting our yards? Where did he get it from? Did he read some of our emails?
Well, you were probably raised like Moses. You were probably raised amongst them. So you even probably thought you were an Egyptian at the same time. So you got the information and you got the training and your knowledge, but you were black.
Don't say that. But you're
probably,
telling the truth.
You probably,
You're telling the truth.
didn't always act black, but you were black, and then one day you had to come to reality that you must go back now and try and figure out how you can help save your brothers and sisters that are in real decline.
But sir, let me correct this. I've always been black, I always acted black, but I always wanted to listen, learn, and then act. It's about listening, learning, and acting. So if you know what's going on with what I call the human enemies of mankind, if you know that you can act and do the same thing in reverse order, you can get the status you need and work then with the enemy and say, again, I am in charge with new leadership, and this is how we're going to work together, but I'm going to determine the destiny of this economic activity. I'm going to determine the destiny of these politicians. I'm going to create the opportunities in the school system, and you can participate if you choose, and if you don't, we are going to make it the #1 area. Education, economic development, political, because we got new leadership, we have new people, we have new ideas, and we have a prioritized corrective action plan, just like you had when you left and turned all the bad over to us, and we're going to make a change. Listen to me. I will not accept any bribes. I will not accept contracts where I have to pay someone to get an appointment in this contract in order to help me and my friends. I'm going to be economically independent. And Mr. Socrates, that's why I've been telling you for years, you cannot allow a poor man that has no leadership ability, that is economically destitute, that have never managed a payroll, that had no business incentives nor desire because of lack of economic ability to be in control of anything other than the dog catchers. And the dog catchers now don't even work.
Well, Doc, we tend to select individuals based upon their civil rights advocacy, not based upon their body of work or their resume or their capabilities. We elect them based upon the rhetoric that comes from the advocacy group most of the time, and it's creating some problems and some void in leadership, as you just articulated. But I want you to stay with me for a minute, because you think Mississippi is really on the move, and I'm here and committed to helping it move too. But Doc, we have 8 major universities. Now you named a few, 15 community college, 17 private colleges, and all of that. So you said, and you can get a free education in Mississippi while we're the most uneducated people in the world, in America. And so you said all those things. Is something wrong?
No, it's not.
Well, let me ask you this then. Yeah, something significantly wrong if you last in education and you got all these universities, you got all of these places that you can learn if education is free, but you still can't pass the 3rd grade reading test, and you still are the most uneducated people in the world based upon the number of your population per capita.
Let me tell you
There's something wrong there.
Let me tell you the problem.
Well, tell us.
It is.
Tell the world the problem, Doc, because if, in fact, you know what the problem is, then maybe we can start to solve it. Because obviously the leaders of today don't know. That's why you have 8 universities. And I'll remind you, Doc, that they were created during the times of slavery so black folk wouldn't be far from the plantation so they could go back to work after they got 3 hours of work. You didn't go to school all day.
I agree with that.
And so there is something fundamentally wrong here when you got that many universities and that much opportunity, and yet you are last in education. Well, now, why is that?
Let's start from the top first. Black people in Mississippi and the nation have been led to believe that the greatest thing in the world for their children is to get an advanced education in areas that's not productive. Therefore, black people, including my parents, told me, boy, you need to go to college. You need to finish a 4-year program and make you some money. I started to do that, but I didn't finish the 4-year program in 4 years. I had an opportunity at a community college to finish and get a certificate in 9 months in areas that paid more than the degree I could have gotten at a 4-year university. and had 3 years to work and become economically independent. But I chose what my parents wanted me to do. I went to a senior college and studied general education and things of that nature. So when I eventually finished, I couldn't even compete with my brother who dropped out of high school, went back and got a certificate and started working for General Motors. He was making $30 an hour as a worker and a union person, and I was making $7 minus what I call taxes and others, and worked 16 hours a day as a school teacher with a master's degree. And when I figured it out, I was making about $3.15 an hour because we worked from 7:30 to 9 o'clock, especially on Fridays. And then we had to work and grade papers until midnight, 5 or 6 days a week, along with assignments that the principal would put on us to work as student advisors. And my brother was constantly getting raises and increases. And I had to go back to school again and again. And when he retired, he was still making more money than I ever made with that less than what I call a strong high school education, because he got certified. He got credentials how to make cars on the assembly line. And he was able to increase his salary just by working hard, working smart, taking a class here and there, a 2-week class, a 3-week class, to become a supervisor, to become a general man that can handle 4 or 5 different robots in a week if someone didn't show up. He said, I'm not going to take a big promotion. I want to take a small promotion. I want to go to class 1, 2, 3, and 4 so I can work overtime. And when someone is out, they can call me. That's why he was making $30 an hour and I was making 7 minus all the other things.
And so your brother left Mississippi.
That's right.
And he went to Detroit or somewhere like that.
Exactly.
And he got a good job and was making more money than you were. And that was a way out. During the Industrial Revolution, most black folk that could get out of Mississippi opted to get out. You stayed and you followed your parents' instructions and got a good education, but you were making $3 an hour, as you just said.
For 15 years.
For 15 years until you figured it out, you said. But Doc, the children of the day don't have an assembly line that they can bail them out. The people in Mississippi today, and we're talking about the current conditions on Mississippi today, there is no army that's drafting them. There is no assembly line that they can go to. Them cars, manufacturing plants for automobiles, they're not there anymore. And you mentioned that your brother could manage robots, and so they've gone to artificial intelligence and robots and things of that nature. They don't have no need for you anymore. Do you realize that you are absolutely not needed anymore in this economy?
I can understand that, and I agree with that. But the thing, those that are absolutely not needed are those that are absolutely not qualified to do anything with the technology, with automation. They won't take advantage of the opportunity that I just mentioned that's openly ready for you to go somewhere with or without a high school diploma and get that certification in how to become a welder, a truck driver.
So what
they got 30 different areas in the healthcare where you can make from $15,000 to $75,000 a year with a high school diploma and a certification or a credential.
So what do you do with the ones that won't take advantage of that?
Well, you can't do much with them, but open up what we call more room in the prisons and jails. But we have to change that by letting parents know you got to work with what you have and take advantage of the opportunities in education and training that's available, and stay out of places where you need to get over your head educationally and you won't be anything but a failure. We've had this debate for years with Booker T. Washington and Du Bois. You know the story. If you don't learn how to feed yourself and your family, you cannot be a positive force in the community. But if everybody in the family going to say, I'm going to send my child to a 4-year university or Everyone in my family has to get a master's degree in psychology and entrepreneurship and work for someone else. And then now, since you say we're at the bottom, we don't have any economic potential, so you got to borrow money to do that. So you finish school, you owe $275,000 a year. You have a degree in, I would say, economic development. That's too general. You should have a degree in finance or statistics. You don't get a job paying no more than $30,000 to $50,000. You do that for at least 10 or 30 or 40 years. You owe that student loan. You're never able to own a home. You have to live with your mama, hoping she dies and let you have that land that she didn't even will to you because you didn't learn in school to have your parents to put a will together, put a health care initiative together, so you can have free access to their resources since you don't have any yourself and you don't have the ability to acquire any. That's the problem, Mr. Socrates.
Well,
lack of knowledge, sir. Lack of knowledge.
You're hearing it
Lack
live.
of opportunity.
You're hearing it
Lack
live.
of taking advantage of things that are prevalent and ready for you to move into with little education and training.
You can't take advantage of things in Mississippi, Doc. I don't see where the opportunity exists for the majority of our people. That you already said that the talented 10th that Du Bois talked about already moved out of the state, out of the city, and moved out there with the white folk in the suburbs.
I did say that.
And so now what you got left over here, they don't have that opportunity to take advantage of those perceived assets that are available to them. And I say perceived because I'm not sure white folk want them in schools like that.
Well, they don't want them in schools like that. That's why they have their selected politicians as elected and appointed to make sure it doesn't happen. That's why they have people in positions of responsibility to say we have millions of dollars through bonds and other monies, local, state, and federal funds, to improve our school system and put in programs that are going to help this young man or woman that dropped out of school in the 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. We can teach them skills they need. We can help them get credentialed without a high school diploma. We can have tutorial programs for those kids in the 1st through the 3rd grade so they can be competitive when they finish the 3rd grade and finish high school, finish middle school, and at the same time you'll see change happening. But these actors that have been appointed by the special interest groups in politics and those that are being appointed by those that are elected are totally part of the scheme to destroy America, to destroy Mississippi, and to destroy the black world as we know it.
Now you're listening to Socrates Garrett Live. This is some pretty straightforward, hard-hitting information that Doc is articulating and presenting, and it needs to be heard. It needs to be heard in both communities, though. We need to certainly hear it in the African American community where we really have a need to make a change and make a change quickly. But it also needs to be heard in the white community because you cannot rise above the majority of your population. Do you realize that if we all worked together in Mississippi and celebrated our diversity and worked on our core strengths together, that Mississippi would be the tourism capital of the world with its history, all of the things that it has to share and talk about how we were and how we overcame that and who we are today and the progress that we're making. And then we would have our own Silicon Valley. But we cannot do that if we're divided. We're divided on Sunday morning. It's the most segregated hour in the entire week on Sunday morning in our churches, in our religions, in our synagogues. We are divided in schools. We don't go to school together. Mississippi now has passed laws embracing charter schools, taking students out of the public schools. Who do you think they're going to take? They're going to take those that are gifted out of the public schools and relegate the remaining students there to a low self-esteem and a lack of opportunity. So we got to fight through this thing and put it on the table. Now you're watching Socrates Garrett Live. We're up against a commercial break. We're going to be right back after this for our very last segment. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee. To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Welcome back to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. This program and many others on this network are bringing you the kind of information, thought-provoking, stimulant conversations that's designed to make you get up and do something, make you get involved, get off the couch and get in the game, get involved. Because without your involvement, we're going to continue to see a decline in the quality of life for African Americans in Mississippi. Now, my co-host has articulated that there are some things that can be done, and I hope you'll call him. I hope you'll call him at 601-201-1957. Get him out. Ask him the tough questions. Ask him what he really thinks going on. This is a man that was born on the plantation in the Mississippi Delta. They're sitting here today, Dr. Eldridge Henderson. Invite him to speak. Let's discuss these things in our churches, in our schools, in all of our work environments. We gotta put this information on the table so that we can try to turn the tide on where we're headed. But I disagree with Dr. Henderson. I see us moving backwards, not forward. I see that the white folk in Mississippi are dividing plans to take over Mississippi, take over the capital city of Jackson, and to relegate African Americans to a position of where you just really don't count. And they did that this past legislative session. They introduced and passed laws that will set Mississippi back for the next 50 years. They introduced laws that if the courts don't strike them down, it will be a role model for other states throughout this country to take all of the rights from black folk and control them in designated areas. Mississippi instigated and approved a House Bill 1020 that put the governor's own police force inside of the city limits of Jackson, Mississippi, own court system, own prosecuting attorneys that report directly up through the governor. You got to go up through the Department of Public Safety, but then you end up at the governor. And these police officers and these courts are not run by elected people and citizens of Jackson, Mississippi. Now this is causing problems, and this is causing some real challenges in the state of Mississippi as to what's going on. Now, clearly, blacks in Mississippi, and especially Jackson, are divided on what to do about a high crime rate. We've never seen this much crime. Our youth are out of control, and we don't want to talk about why they're out of control, but we know they're out of control. And so blacks are saying we need some help. Even elected officials like Councilman Kenny Stokes has advocated that the governor come inside of the city limits of Jackson and run the police department. Even African American elected officials are subscribing to the theory that the white man needs to govern us and control us and police us because we have not the ability to govern and police ourselves. Now, I was at the state capitol on the steps when this bill was being protested against, and quite frankly, a young lady that was leading that charge was which is now a candidate for District 72 in the House of Representatives in the state of Mississippi. Her name is Rakia Lumumba. And she actually laid this thing out better than I've ever heard, and those that I've talked to said that no one has ever articulated exactly what's happening to the citizens of Mississippi the way she did on the steps of the Capitol. Now, I wish her much success in her bid for election. You know, it's an interesting dynamic that she brings to the table because she clearly is an advocate for those that have been disenfranchised. But she wants to take that skill set, she's highly educated and gifted, she wants to take that skill set inside of the legislature. There are those who say that once you get in that body, you become compromised and you're not able to stand on the strong platform that got you there. But I believe she's different. I believe she's grounded. I believe she understands the needs of her people. And I believe that she would make a great addition in that office. So remember that on election day, candidate Rakia Lumumba for House District 72. She's the best candidate for that race. Now, Doc.
Yes, sir.
Getting back to what I'm saying to you about 1020 and other bills that were passed, it indicates to me that white folk have a plan not to come together with us, not to pull us together and build on our commonalities, our common goals, but to separate us and push us apart and put us in places that were traditionally called plantations.
Of course. That's what they designed in their declarations of independence and their constitutions on the local, state, and federal levels to divide black folks and anyone else they don't want, because they set up this country for white males only. When they put the Constitution together and the so-called Declaration of Independence, they excluded their mothers, their wives, their cousins, unless they own property. Males only. Black people were not considered. Indians were, so-called Native Americans were not considered as citizens and human beings during that time. The few Hispanics that were here in the so-called continental United States were not considered important, even though they had their own country called Mexico. They say, we're going to get rid of all of these people, take all of this land, we're going to rule, white males. And that's exactly what they are planning to do now. They're getting ready to come back into Hinds County. But black folks have to do just like you said. You got to have some independent, some economically independent potential new leaders, which I've been telling you for several years, called the new man, that can get in positions of responsibility. He or she can pay their rent, can buy them a house, can put their kids in educational institutions where they can finish. If they have some educational problems, they can pay for tutors and get them out so they can become business owners, versus having the same people in office that continuing to allow things to happen because they don't have the independence to make decisions. I gave you an example 2 weeks ago about the fact that certain people that are beholden to the special interest groups have to contact them to decide, what can I do with our monies? Who shall I give the contract to? That's what I've been telling you folks. So you can't keep those kind of folks in office. To give you an example, right now in Hinds County, you have about almost 60 individuals running for 20 positions on the county level. 75% of the people that's running guaranteed going to get elected. Probably 85% by the same 30% of the people that voted for them the last time, the time before the last time, the last 10 and 15 years. And if you notice, and I've been following this for some time, when John Doe leaves office after 10 or 15 years, his son, daughter, or cousin, or brother, or wife come in and take that position. You have no significant change. Who's going to be the leadership team for this new boy, this new girl that comes in that took his daddy's or his mother's or his cousin's position? The same independent jokers that told the dad and mom what to do. The same elitist group. But if you come in with some economic independence, with new males and females, starting with a younger set in the mid-20s to 45, you can have a significant change, and they will have the ability and the skills to curtail this European male movement that's coming back into Hinds County and the city of Jackson. You've got to have independent politicians that are elected and appointed with leadership skill, the ability to negotiate, one that is tactful, the one that can say no to free money, to scholarships for their children, free money, loans at the bank to help you keep your house or your church or whatever you got. Those kind of people are not good for the history of Hinds County. They're not good for the history of Mississippi nor the world. You got to get a new leadership, a new person, male or female.
Well, Doc, I want you to explain something to me. I mean, you are a gentleman that has lived a great life, got all of these wonderful experiences. You're educated, you're street smart, all of those things going for you. But on Sunday morning, our churches in the African American community take the money out of the community. On Monday morning, Doc, they deposit all that money into white banks.
Stop this. Stop it right there. I'm not going to protest that. I'm going to tell you telling the truth. That's the way they were trained to do it. Even when the black folks had an opportunity to make money during the Freedom Bureau with the Freedom Banks, white folks were in charge. And the 2 or 3 black folks they put in charge were dependent on them for the position. They even put Frederick Douglass on that bank, and he wanted to straighten things out, and he was voted out. He was not able to do it.
You saying the white folk are choosing all of our leaders?
Not all, but about 90% of them.
And they're choosing our ministers?
Of course, the ministers or put themselves in position to be chosen. They don't choose them initially. They see who the rising minister is in the community. And they have other ministers that get with him, and they have private meetings with special interest groups and say, I can help you become a leader in the church, in your denomination. I can help you become a leader in the state of Mississippi, of Georgia, of Alabama. And when you know anything, they have these polluted ministers and so-called good God-fearing citizens in positions of responsibility, and you don't hear from them anymore. They don't protest anything other than the status quo. They say, don't worry about it. The Lord will take care of his people. I don't believe that.
No.
Never have.
No, I think that God said that, Jesus said that, you got to go to work.
Got to work, Doc. You got to work. You got to plan.
You can't stay up in the church praying all the time. He brought him out and said, go to the fields.
That's what he told him. Talk to the poor man. Talk to the fisherman. Talk to the workers. Tell the politicians to get out of Dodge.
Can't believe that we just are here to wait for God to come get us and save us from our own demise.
He's not going to do it.
He's not going to do it. But now let me ask you this. The churches are collecting money and depositing it in white banks on Monday morning. Our government is collecting all of our taxes and depositing the money in white banks on Monday morning, all during the week probably.
That's right.
Both the county, the school system, the airport authority, the city, all doing the same thing. They're collecting our money and they're putting the money in white folks' hands.
And let me tell you why. Because most of these so-called black leaders, male and females that do that, are compromised. They are afraid to go to the so-called black bank, which there are very few, and put that money in because they know they will lose their position in less than 30 days. They will have them framed because they already know their weaknesses, and in less than 30 days, no more than 90, that person will be out of office. I'm telling you. So they're not going to do it. That's why you have to have new people in office. You don't put the 75% of the people that's running currently on the local level or even the state level back in office that's been in there 5 or more years. You don't do that. You have to have a 75% change in the current elected and appointed officials in education, in politics, in economic development, and especially in the churches. You can't have the same families, the same individuals running things that's been running the economic, the politics, and religion and leadership position for the last 5 to 40 years. You get the same results every time. Every time.
We're coming to the end of our program for this evening. There was a lot more to discuss. We're going to be changing the times of our shows, and we're going to be changing the frequency of our programs. So this information needs to get out there and get out there more often. So look forward to the changes that are coming. But I want to remind you again that if you're watching this program on Facebook, we need you to send us stars and share the program with your friends and families. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Let us move up in our standings with a number of subscribers. We'll be able to do wonderful things. If you're watching us on WeBelieveDigital.com, hit the donate button. You can call us at 800-492-5186 and make your contribution. Schedule your own podcast show. This studio is available for you 24 hours a day. You let us know what you have in mind, and we'll get you scheduled and begin airing your program. We have great content in this studio every day. I want to send out a shout out again to all of those that are out there that are struggling and suffering, trying to make a difference, trying to raise a family, trying to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. We know you're there. We know that you can't give up, because effective leadership that Dr. Henderson is talking about is on the way. We got to bottom out. We just like on crack cocaine. You can't do much for a crackhead until he bottoms out. Once he hits the rock bottom, then we start working our way back up and can become an important, meaningful citizen that's running and controlling things. That is going to happen. So we need your help here in this studio. Call us, 800-492-5186. Finally, Doc, close us out with your remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, as I conclude today, that if you want to change things, I'm going to give you an analogy. You can't use fish grease when you cook chicken, because the chicken is going to taste like fish. So you're going to have to get a new ingredient, a new person, male or female, from 18 to 45 to be the new leader, to be the new fish, the new chicken that's going to decide who will be cackling and laying the egg. You know what I'm talking about, folks. Call me and get the real news. 601-201-1957, or email us at clu369@gmail.com, and we will help you change your life, your status, and your community in 30, 60, 90 days if you want to prioritize corrective action plan with a guideline and a checklist. That's the solution, Mr. Socrates. You don't want your chicken tasting and smelling like fish. If you use the same oil, you don't cook it in the same pot, sir.
Doc, your wisdom amazes me. This has been Socrates Garrett Live. We want you to stay safe out there and have a great weekend. We look forward to you joining us on our next program. Good night. Good evening. I'm Socrates Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American owned broadcasting studio. WeBelieveDigital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services, and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live Facebook. When We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again.